There are two kinds of beginners in Tekken. Ones that respect plus frames and lose everything because of it, and the ones that try to disrespect it in the most random ways, which more often than not results in a blowout. It's pretty obvious that neither of those do a good job dealing with the plus frame pressure. So today I do my best to give you an idea on how to approach those situations when you are at frame disadvantage. Before we get into it, I feel like it is important to understand that there is no universal solution to everything. When it comes to a thing like that, the whole affair is a huge mind game between you and your opponent, which is something that I think most newcomers miss. In those situations, you have to play off of your opponent and constantly adapt if you want to win, of course. You can't just let them do their thing, but you can't just smash your panic move either. Your plan has to be flexible. With that being said, whenever you get hit by something that is super plus on block, like say Dragunov's WR2, your opponent has plenty of moves that can help them to capitalize on the frame advantage. But I like to divide them into two categories. The philosophy behind the first category is to use a move that is uninterruptible. So let's assume Dragunov does back 1+2 and then does down forward 1, with back 1+2 being +6 on block. 13 frame down forward 1 becomes uninterruptible. There is no move that you can do that will interrupt your opponent. You can't do a panic hopkick, you can't do a jab, you can't do a dig jab. Going for any move results in you taking the damage. This is the most common kind of frame trap, with your opponent mostly poking to see if you respect the frame advantage. As I've said earlier, respecting it too much will get you killed. However, trying to blindly disrespect it will get you killed as well, so that's why we're here, to get an idea on how to approach it. Either way, the philosophy behind the second category is to go for a slower move that is more rewarding but is not guaranteed, essentially using the frame advantage to limit your options. Let's assume that Dragunov does down 2 after back 1+2. Again, with back 1+2 being +6 on block, down 2 being 18 frames of startup, you can't use anything slower than 12 frames. And even then, you're risking a trade. Those options are usually more risky. Again, I really want to emphasize that the key to get out of those situations is being able to understand what your opponent does and what their plan is. You have to adapt and be able to read the situation. So doing completely random stuff in panic is not the way to go. Anyway, let's talk solutions. The first option is easily solved with a good movement, which is something that most newcomers tend to overlook. In most cases, those semi-guaranteed options after plus frames can be sidestep. I know it is easier said than done, especially online, but it is as safe as it gets, and it's very, very rewarding. As you can see, with a simple sidestep, I'm turning heavy frame disadvantage into a launch in my favor. This option is super effective at any level, and it can help you to solve plenty of problems in Tekken. With that being said, there are other moves with good tracking that are hard to step, but don't forget about the range. In certain situations, a simple backdash can save you and create the whiff, giving you an opportunity to gain momentum. Anyway, once your opponent starts to adapt, they will try to utilize other moves that might be more risky, which brings us to the next scenario. Since your opponent is using a move that is not guaranteed, they leave some room for you to interrupt or crush them, effectively turning it into a guessing game. The joke of every 50-50 is that neither party really wants it, because by doing down 2 after back 1+2, your opponent is essentially forcing a 50-50, despite being at frame advantage. Well, how do you deal with those situations? You guess the right option. If you see that instead of doing down forward 1, your opponent does a jab or down 2 after back 1+2, you can try to crush it or interrupt it. It is obviously a lot more risky than sidestepping or backdashing, but remember, it's a huge mind game, so both of you have to be constantly adapting. And this is what I see most newcomers try to do, yet they always fail, because instead of having a good reason to do a hop kick or a jab, most beginners do it out of panic. Trying to guess the next move seems like an easier option in a way, as opposed to well-timed sidestep or precise backdash, but it is also a lot more risky, which doesn't do you any favors. In fact, unless you have a good read, trying to guess blindly is even worse than doing nothing. There is a good reason why you see some of the pro players do nothing after plus frame moves, baiting out the reaction, because guessing blindly is very dangerous. My message here is that good fundamentals go a long way in Tekken, and being able to backdash or sidestep some of the options can save you in a variety of situations, all while being relatively safe. There's nothing in Tekken that can't be countered, so instead of trying to mash a jab or a hop kick, look for a more reasonable solution. Analyze what your opponent is doing and try to forge the direct counter to it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.